The Superman Spider-Man crossover comic came out, and after reading almost every story in this first collection, I gotta say, this book feels special. So I wanted to take however long this video will be to talk about my favorite stories and something that stuck out to me in a bit of a negative way. But trust me though, it's mostly positive vibes. The main event of the book, the long-awaited return and team-up of the greatest superheroes ever created, sorry Batman, in the wonderfully done Truth, Justice, and Great Responsibility. It's a story that's crafted by who I'd consider to be industry darlings, Mark Waid and Jorge Jimenez. So you already know that the writing is going to be fun and the art is going to be poppin'. And I don't want to spoil much about these stories, so I'm going to do my best to show pages without dialogue so you could experience it for yourself your first time around. And if I do want to spoil something, I'll warn you, so, don't worry about it. Anyway, the vibe and feel of the story is undeniably the timeless Superman and Spider-Man I grew up with. This story specifically feels like a continuation or homage to the original crossover that happened in 1976 with Superman vs. The Amazing Spider-Man, which also featured Doc Ock but no Brainiac, and instead of fighting before teaming up, we're just straight buddies this time around. As I read this story, I felt like a little kid again.
That's what I'm talking about. This shit means something to me, man.
I think that's a testament to how well Waid and Jimenez capture the essence of these characters, with the themes not just being hope and perseverance, but also a story that featured one of the coolest references to one of the best Spider-Man comics ever done, If This Be My Destiny. That being said, this book featured a whopping 8 stories, and I'd say that most of them are pretty good. So here are my favorites. Pages by writer Christopher Priest and artist Daniel Sampere was a quick cosmic adventure featuring Superboy Prime and Spider-Man as they grapple with the fourth wall and an otherworldly entity. The Bridge by writer Jeffrey Lemire and artist Rafa Sandoval is a fantastic story that showcases the importance of our respective heroes as fathers, Ben Parker and Jonathan Kent. And finally, Jamie Gone Carnage by writer Matt Fraction and artist Steve Lieber. Now, I can tell you with absolute certainty that this does not happen in the story.
I wasn't sure if I could beat Brainiac on my own this time.
No problem, Superman, but your friend Jimmy might be in trouble. If we don't make it in time, it could end really bad.
He's just a guy! What the fuck is happening?
I'm friends with Superman.
And I'll leave it at that. An honorable mention in what could have been a favorite was Beyond the Cobwebs of Tomorrow by Sean Murphy. I won't give anything away about that one, but for sure some of these stories feel like the first part of something bigger, which makes sense since they'll be, releasing another book next month. And now, the story that I had a bit of an issue with, The World's Finest. This was written by Tom King and penciled by one of the absolute GOATs, Jim Lee.
DC Comics will not support AI-generated storytelling or art.
I won't say that I have an overt issue with King's work, especially since I haven't really read a whole lot of it, but I do know that he's a very divisive writer among the comic book community. But anyway, this story is centered around Lois Lane and Mary Jane. Conceptually, something that I could really get behind, and the second half of the story did get better for me, but something happened with Mary Jane, specifically on the 3rd page, that made the story bittersweet for me. So here we go. Spoiler alert, move on to the timestamp that's on your screen right now if you don't want, to know what happens. And you can also use the chapters below, if I figured out how to do that, to skip to the next part of the video. Cool, so we start this story with Lois Lane and Mary Jane Watson dangling midair inside a bus as they're tethered by webs, and they converse about how common the occurrence is. Of course, this serves as a meta-commentary about how similar these two are and how they've been around for decades, which I can appreciate. Spider-Man is then able to successfully save them as Superman fends off a Sentinel. Yeah, there's a Sentinel on the bridge, and honestly, it's not that important. Once Spider-Man successfully saves both heroines, he embraces MJ before going off to help Superman. He exclaims, Mary Jane, I was so worried. If anything ever happened to you, I couldn't go on. Obviously, this is a reference to The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 121, or The Night Gwen Stacy Died. The trauma of losing Gwen and the subsequent relationship that he forms with Mary Jane as they work through the grief of losing someone they both really cared for in obviously different ways defined a turning point for these characters and the comic book industry as a whole. In fact, stories like Spider-Man Blue somewhat retroactively showcase the relationship these three had as one of immense importance, and it's somewhat poetic with how it went and where it was going to go. With Peter being married to MJ but still doing a Valentine's Day tradition to remember Gwen, well, Mary Jane finds out, and instead of holding it against him, she says, "Say hello for me. Tell Gwen I miss her too." So, with Peter reacting this way, I could only imagine that when Lois asks about it, MJ would respond with a similar level of care. Right? Nope! King goes on to write, he's got a thing with bridges. There was an old college girlfriend. He can't ever quite, I understand that this is a quick reference, I really do get that, but for Mary Jane Watson to essentially exclude herself from that trauma, that's terrible to me. And I understand that we're moving at a breakneck pace, but could we simply not have done that? Honestly, that's really all that rubbed me the wrong way for the story, because the rest is actually quite decent, with the point being that these women love their respective partners, and they couldn't imagine being without them, and how that goes both ways. It's a nice sentiment that's bogged down by that early impression. Alright, welcome back everyone that skipped to this point of the video. You're just in time to hear my final thoughts on the book. So, despite what I just finished talking about, I can say confidently that I recommend picking up this book at your local comic book shop. It's well worth the asking price, and it's probably going to go down as an important part of comic book history since we're celebrating the 50-year anniversary of their original crossover. And, yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for you today. If you like this comic book-centered video, leave a like and subscribe, as I'll be doing more of this in the future. So, yeah. Till next time, it's your boy Foster Cinema, and I hope you have a good day and a good night.
They fucking did it. They fucking saved the city and the freaking world, bro. And he said, we did it, partner.